Well, I had a white outfit when I was coming here, and then I stepped outside and I saw it was raining and dark, and then I put a dark outfit on. I don't think we'll ever see summer, will we? Jeez. Yeah, it's over, right. We're back into fall. Well, thank you, Tony, for those kind words, and good afternoon. I am pleased and honored to speak before you today about River Forest and my vision for a revitalized business plan and a secure financial future. We have intentionally maintained River Forest as a residential community. Historically, we fought hard to retain our quiet ambiance and our historic housing stock, rich with homes built by Lloyd Wright, Drummond, and other noted architects. Up until around 2007, when our country experienced the worst economic crisis since the Great Depression, our businesses in River Forest thrived, as they did elsewhere. We built the retail-oriented Town Center 1 and 2 on Harlem and Lake. A new CVS went up on North and Thatcher, and we were moving in the right direction. Then the recession hit, and it hit us hard. Heinz Lumber went out of business, leaving a gaping hole on Madison. Plunkett Furniture shuttered their doors on North Avenue, and two big draws in the town center, Linen Things and Talbot's, if you can recall, closed. And Dominic's was hanging on by a thread. So rather than focusing on rebuilding our business profile during that time, the Board of Trustees, of which I was a part, decided to get our fiscal house in order. And I can proudly say that the village has regained its financial footing. We've elevated our bond rating and balanced our budgets for each year for the last 4 years. So now it's time to restore our business community. When I started my run for village president more than a year ago, I pledged to make economic development a priority. Residents told me throughout the campaign that their property tax burden was extraordinarily high. Seniors told me that they could not continue to live in our community, the place that they loved. Young families who wanted to stay here because of our great schools and parks and accessibility to transportation told me the same. As a person with more than 30 years of business experience, I knew the value of having a strong commercial economy. I knew we needed to diversify our revenue stream to continue funding the programs and services that residents had come to rely on day in and day out to improve their lives. We are committed to this track. We are coming out of the gate and looking to rebuild that base. The Board of Trustees and I have created an economic commission staffed by 7 volunteers with outstanding credentials who get that to strengthen River Forest, we must have the kind of climate that makes businesses want to come to our community and stay. We will soon take the temperature of that climate. Our Economic Development Commission is putting the final touches on a survey that will help assess our business environment. We know when a person comes into our village hall to get a business license or file plans for expansion or spruce up their place, he or she can find our processes hopefully very fast, our resources very user-friendly, and our staff who is gracious and very helpful. But we can do better. Many of you will be contacted this summer regarding the survey, and we look forward to the contributions that you can give to us. With an idea from Trustee Susan Conti, we are also partnering with Dominican University to create a collaborative marketing plan that will help us sell our town to developers and retailers. The economy is slowly improving but becoming ever more competitive. And as a community, we have to show businesses that we are serious. We want you to locate in River Forest because we have a business-friendly environment, coupled with residents who want to shop local. We offer a lot of vitality here. We are well-educated and becoming more diverse, an asset we actually very much deeply value. We have top-notch schools and parks and 2 great, wonderful universities tucked inside our borders. We have expert police and fire who patrol our streets. They know our business owners, and residents and visitors alike can feel safe at Town Center or anywhere in the village. Now, contrary to urban legend, River Forest does issue liquor license. Yes, we do. And I know that there are residents in our town who would love to have a Hendrick's Martini without having to pay for so many hours of babysitting time and a long drive home. So what the residents of River Forest want is have that Hendrick's Martini served at a white tablecloth restaurant right here in our town. If any one of you are interested, let me know after the program, because I can guarantee if you build it, we will come. Maybe you find a spot on North Avenue for you. I can tell you that if you do build that restaurant, or any commercial venture for that matter, we have an incentive or two for you. We want to partner with you to bring your plans to fruition. The Economic Development Commission has also recommended, and the village has hired, a firm, Kane McKenna, which Oak Park and Forest Park have both used as well, to help us analyze whether we can create a tax increment finance district along Madison or North Avenue, or both. The prospects are certainly very exciting, and hopefully we'll know something by June. But the efforts we are undertaking to make River Forest more enticing to business shouldn't stop at our borders. We know we have to be competitive in this ever-tightening business climate. At the same time, we know we can all benefit if we collaborate. So let me share a bit of work with you. Under Mayor Calderone's leadership, River Forest is partnering with Forest Park to create a grand streetscape on Madison Street that will offer an exciting impetus for more shopping and dining. River Forest is also working with our neighbors to the north, Elmwood Park, to revitalize North Avenue with a streetscape plan that will breathe life into that part of town as well. With Tony and Oak Park Village President Anan Abu-Taleb, our neighbors to the east, we are looking toward having a fully reconstructed and improved Harlem Viaduct near the Lake Street and Harlem Avenues. We collectively have submitted a federal grant application for this project and have engaged our congressional leaders, Representative Danny Davis and U.S. Senator Dick Durbin, to strongly advocate on our behalf. What a great opportunity that this will be if we could make the viaduct safer for our residents and more attractive and convenient for our tourists. Tony, Anan, and I are continuing to explore ways to make government work smarter and better for all of its citizens. And if you have any ideas, please bring them to us. We really do want to hear your ideas. So before I close, I'd like to share with you what I envision in River Forest. We have a bright future, a future that can only be limited by our ability to think outside the box. My vision is River Forest is where a business community can coexist with our residential community, where business can help the village grow financially, but also contribute to the character and vibrancy of our town. We are hopeful for the redevelopment of several sites. The former Hines property has been bought, and we are excited about the prospect of a residential redevelopment effort at that site. Of course, Lake and Lathrop has been a topic of discussion, so let me address that for a moment. We have awarded Keystone Ventures a contract, and the village has committed up to $1.9 million to remediate and to redevelop that property those properties at that corner. We are very hopeful those development efforts will begin this year. We envision a multi-use development with retail on the bottom and residential on the top. River Forest owns the property at the intersection of Lake and Park. We are speaking with potential builders who we hope may become interested in developing, for example, an independent living facility, which will attract residents who want to stay in our community, who want to downsize and stay in our community. Of course, the Dominic site outside of Lake and Lathrop is at the top of our list for redevelopment. We are awaiting word on whether a new tenant will assume that lease, will assume the lease at that property. The village does not own the property. However, we are in continual communications with the owner, Mid-America Real Estate. And Mid-America has dedicated themselves to making this happen, but like everything else, it takes time to find the right fit for that site. So last, we are hopeful that the 2 empty storefronts in Town Center will be filled very soon. In fact, I can announce today that Massage Envy, if anyone's ever heard of that store, which provides upscale spa services, will actually take a piece of the old Talbot store. We have the kind of charm and proximity to Chicago that will attract international tourists. And I would love for River Forest to capture some of that buying power. Here's an idea, and it's just an idea. Perhaps we could collaborate with the Cook County Forest Preserve District to use the Cummings Memorial Stage, which is right there at Lake and Harlem. What if we could make it a cafe so people can sip a cup of coffee, maybe eat a pastry, while they're waiting for their bus to take them to one of our storied homes throughout Oak Park or River Forest. Or just relax after a very big day of shopping on Lake Street. I'd love to devise a plan where we, Anan, Tony, and I, can create the kind of foot traffic that will bring residents and tourists alike to our towns and shop our businesses. So here's how I would go to market with our business community. I would like for our communities, including Elmwood Park, to harness our energies and talents to form a regional business alliance that will allow us to work together instead of individually to help drive better business environments for the retailers and for the residents. And this is where we will look to you, the Chamber, for assistance. We look to you to work with us to help make that vision a reality. That can only make our own town, our own business, our own region a better place to live and work. I'd like to congratulate you, Kathy and Tony, and the whole Chamber for a successful event in bringing together business and government. I hope this is the start of a new conversation about what government can do for you. We look forward to keeping the dialogue open, and I very much appreciate the offer of coming here today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kathy. Our next speaker will be Tony Calderone, the mayor of Forest Park.
I think that many in the room will undoubtedly know the person I'd like to mention just for a moment. His name is Dave Happy Friday King. I did that because certainly I'd like to welcome everyone for being here today. And even though it's a little bit gloomy outside, it is a happy Friday. It's one of the reasons that I chose to wear an orange tie to remind me, or I'm just going to pretend that the sun is in fact out. Why is any of that important? Because, see, it's all about attitude. Tony mentioned it in his remarks. He said he might hear something today about the culture. And what does the culture mean, particularly in municipal government? Because, you see, municipal government is really no different than business. I'll kind of talk about that a little bit. But before I begin, I certainly wanted to say thank you to Cathy Adduci for the great job, her and her staff, and Tony, the current president, for creating this opportunity to bring people from our 3 communities together. I think this may be the first. I hope it's not the last. I think that there's always a lot to look forward to whenever you can expand your horizons. So thank you. You know, when you talk about culture, and I'm going to quickly just give you a little bit of brief background on myself. In addition to being the mayor of Forest Park for the last 16 years, I also own a business. I've been a business entrepreneur. I started a company 36 years ago. I still own that company. I wear 2 hats. I work a ridiculous number of hours every week because I do, in fact, I'm an engaging mayor. I'm an active mayor. I have a big office at the Village Hall, and I spend time there, and I spend time at my private business. But nonetheless, when I made the decision to run for mayor, I said, I want to bring some of the business skills that many of you apply in your own businesses to local government. Now, I did learn that you cannot utilize all of them, but there are many that you can. You see, for every one of you that either owns or operates a business in here, chances are very good that you know all about what it takes to gain a customer. And you also know, I'd be shocked if you are a business owner or operator, if you've never lost a customer, I'd be hard-pressed to believe that. The point is, you know what it takes to gain a customer, and you know how hard it is when they want to leave you. And you see, in private business, you have some different choices than in local government. But from day one, I've advocated, we're going to try to apply those same skill sets. We're going to say, for both our business community and our residents, instead of complaining about them when they need something, if we think about them as a customer, it changes the whole dynamics. Because they're not a pain in the, and I'll let you fill in the blank, they're not a pain anymore. They're a value to your community. Back in, so I'm going to quickly just kind of take you through a little brief history of the Village of Forest Park, particularly on the economic development front, and kind of bring you up to the current day affairs. Just out of curiosity, by show of hands, how many in the room have either ate, enjoyed a liquid refreshment, or have done some shopping, especially on Madison Street? Anybody? Almost everybody. Okay, I'm born and raised in Forest Park. I've lived there my entire life. I've never lived anywhere else, so I'm 58. And so I've had a little bit of experience watching the community from the time that I was a young kid delivering newspapers at the age of 10, 11, and 12. And in fact, Madison Street was my route. See, a lot of people are familiar with Madison Street in Forest Park. In fact, it doesn't make any difference where I travel, and I do a lot of traveling. They say, where are you from? Forest Park. First words out of their mouth is Madison Street. Anywhere. I can go to Springfield, and they're talking about Madison Street in Forest Park. For those of you that may recall, prior to 1999, 50% of our storefronts on Madison Street were empty. 50% were empty. Why? We had a bad attitude. We had stinking thinking in our municipal government. We had stinking thinking. You see, and so when I came in, I said, no, let's change that a little bit. Let's change our culture, and let's partner. This has been a major, major ingredient to our success. Let's partner with the business community. Let's partner with the Chamber of Commerce. Let's partner with, at that time, we also were a Main Street community. So we had both of these organizations, each with a little bit different roles, the Chamber and Main Street, each with a little bit different roles, but the common element was to improve the business sphere. And we've done that. And we did that, we made a big splash. And it's the splash effect that, as I'm making my remarks, I want to share with both Cathy and Anan, because the splash effect can have long-term good consequences. What does that mean? Recently, there was a little bit of a dialogue in one or two of the newspapers about some of the economic development that's happening in a town called Berwyn. And a great community there, and they too are trying to get back on the rise. And you know, they've done some stuff along Roosevelt Road, and in fact, they did a streetscape project where they partnered with the village of Oak Park because the borders are there. And recently, Berwyn has made a splash. They've done a couple of developments on the street that catch your attention. That's the splash effect. When you start to capture attention, and so we've lived this in Forest Park, we've seen it, we capitalize on it, and we're not giving up by any means. But we redid the street. We did the streetscaping. We were fortunate enough to, because of our partnership, local government and business community, because of our partnership, we got some like-minded business people to invest in some properties. The village government put up money to facilitate and fund several different grant programs. Facade rehabilitation grant program, we did some interior improvement grant programs, and it was things like that where we made a splash. Guess what happened after the splash? Other businesses start paying attention to you. People from the outside start saying, what's going on there? We better check it out. Let's go take a look. Some of our economic development has, in fact, happened haphazardly. Others not. We know, for instance, that in the village of Forest Park, we absolutely are a destination location. We learned that early on, and we said, let's not try to be somebody that we're not. And if you think about this, when you look along Madison Street, for instance, outside of Starbucks, Subway, Jimmy John's, there may be one more, maybe. When you look along that entire strip, every single business owner is a person like Paul and Henry from Starship Subs. They're entrepreneurs who, in fact, a business like theirs has been, they're in business a little equal to about mine, so 36, 37, 38 years, something like that. All along Madison Street, it's entrepreneurs. And we knew that from day one. And we said, let's capitalize on that. When we start to look for uses, voids that we might be missing, let's look for those entrepreneurs. Why? Well, what we have found is entrepreneurs have a greater tendency to stick it out through the tough times. The entrepreneur is willing to wait till the very end before they raise the white flag, more so than corporate America. If the bottom line on that store is not cutting it, they're going to close it up. The entrepreneur, the entrepreneurial spirit just has a little more gusto. So, in our case, the magic ingredients along Madison Street, and that's not our only business district, by the way. I'm going to talk about one of our other significant business districts. But everybody knows Madison Street. That's what's been happening. That's what continues to happen, and we like the magic that it brings. We as a local government have had to be reactive in some cases. You know, because of this small town charm that we like to claim we have these smaller type businesses. Some of those businesses are unique, and that requires adaptability by government. It requires adaptability by government to sometimes make changes to these doggone things called zoning codes. Anybody in Oak Park ever experienced any of that? You know what we try to do a little bit different? I'm not picking on Oak Park, and believe me, Anan, he can shoot an arrow at me when he gets up here. I'm trying to give him some tips. Here's what happens. In my particular case, and you know what I do as the mayor of Forest Park may or may not apply to other communities. I can't say for certain, but I'm going to strongly suggest that one of the things that I look forward to the most and have looked forward to the most serving as mayor is trying to cut red tape whenever I can. Okay, I thrive on that. provided that it's all legal, moral, and ethical, if I can cut the red tape to get a business into town, and sometimes you got to be a little creative, but as long as it's legal, moral, and ethical, you can have this creative thinking stepping outside the box. Currently, Forest Park has about 380 businesses operating actively in Forest Park. It's not a lot. We're a small town, obviously a little bit smaller than our neighbor here, Oak Park. But I do want to tell you kind of what's happened in the last 5-6 years, just so that you have a perspective with some empirical information rather than the anecdotal comments that I've been kind of making. Back in 2008, our combined retail sales taxes to the Village of Forest Park, including the standard sales tax, plus we also have this thing called a non-home rule sales tax. In 2008, combined, it was about $4.1 million. In 2009, it dropped to 3.8. 2010 dropped to 3.6. 11, 3.7. 12, flat at about 3.7. And guess what? In 2013, we're back up combined at 4.1 million. These are good indicators. I mean, this quantifies for all of us that the economy, was in the pits for a long time. But these indicators are telling us that it looks like we're inching our way back to a better time. But here in last year, 2013, we're just getting back to 2008 levels. Okay, there's been this huge makeup period. Not a doggone thing any of us could actually do to make this happen overnight. We don't have a magic wand, to increase retail sales taxes, especially at those levels, where you're off $300,000, $400,000, $500,000. It requires a tremendous amount of retail sales to get our small portion of that. We got some really good things to look forward to, particularly on Madison Street. Soon, it should happen this year, 2014. We're going to make another little splash at the corner of Madison and Harlem. It's a vacant lot there. It used to be a Shell gas station. We're going to be making a splash there. We're about 90% certain there's a retail development that's going to come out of the ground. A little bit too early to share the name, but we feel confident that it's going to happen. We had another kind of a gaping hole on Madison Street, set of unfortunate circumstances. There was a restaurant called Fiorenza's. Nice guy, stuck a lot of money in the place, but unfortunately only survived for about a year, closed its doors. However, a female-owned operator who currently operates 3 Mexican restaurants in western suburbs has signed a lease for that location, and so it's going to change hats from an Italian flair to a Mexican flair, and we think that that's going to be a great opportunity. All the way at the very west end of the street, we've got a husband and wife that are zeroing in on a craft beer brewery location, which is going to help both me and President Adduci as we start to jointly develop what I have always kind of captioned the west end of Madison Street. We're looking forward to that development, co-development between the Village of Forest Park and River Forest, because we think it's going to create some exciting opportunities. Lastly, our other major business district is this street called Roosevelt Road. And we know that Roosevelt Road is a both underutilized business corridor. We believe that it needs some help, and as a result of that, we are creating a new TIF district that essentially is going to go from Harlem Avenue all the way west to Des Plaines Avenue. It's going to take in both sides of the street. Although the Forest Park Plaza is already in a TIF, what we're doing is kind of extending that and creating a nice rectangular shape. We feel very confident that with the creation of that TIF district, we're going to utilize that as its intended tool to bolster some new development and redevelopment along Roosevelt Road. So I hope that kind of gives you a little bit of an idea of both what's been happening in Forest Park and what you can kind of look forward to. We think that there are quite a number of exciting events to happen in the future, but most importantly, we are looking forward to, for first time ever, the joint streetscape project with River Forest, the tri-community redevelopment of this old cruddy viaduct here at Harlem and in our town at Circle, South Boulevard, and Oak Park. The point is, our collaboration between the three communities has never been better, and we're going to continue that as we go forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mayor Tony. Our final speaker is the President of the Village of Oak Park, Anan Abu-Taleb.
Well, my speech is very short. Whatever President Adduci promised you in terms of incentives, and whatever Tony promised you in terms of a nicer weather, I'll top that, okay? That's it. Well, Cathy Ann and the Chamber, thank you very much for setting this up. This is amazing. Our three communities come together. It is truly one community. That's how I feel about it. Safety is the #1 priority for our community. We have an outstanding police department led by an outstanding chief. Chief Tanksley could not make it today due to a previous commitment. But he sent Commander Reynolds and Civilian Commander Ramsey in his place. If you're here, please stand up. I thought you were here. And also anybody from the police department from Forest Park or River Forest, if you're here, please stand up. All right, well, we thank you anyway. Have a seat. I called Chief Tanksley, and I asked him if he has any thing that he wants me to consider talking about at this gathering. And this is what he emailed me. He said, the only thing I would ask that you consider is the fact that the three police departments have a very good working relationship and share resources all the time. We know that what happens in one community can also impact our neighbors, so we work together to fight crime. And to me, that is the mindset we need to adopt for the three communities on as many levels as possible. To me, that's the mindset we need to embrace as we work with our other taxing agencies in our towns. When I decided to run for president of the Village of Oak Park, I wasn't thinking about going along to get along. I was thinking about changing the status quo. I wasn't happy with the direction our village was taken. On an exit strategy from people who tried to invest or invested in our community, they would not do it again. And some developers have decided to withdraw because they could not get anywhere. You see, small businesses play a vital role in creating jobs and growth in our economy. And they help to build more prosperous neighborhoods. In the past, potential investors that wanted to invest in our community were faced with uncertainty. Businesses do not like uncertainties. They can't forecast, and they can't figure out if they're going to make money or not. Relative to other communities, businesses were also faced with higher costs of construction, multiple points of entry, higher property taxes, cumbersome building processes, and endless plan commission public meetings. Today, the board and staff are aware of these unfriendly business conditions, and we are actively working to combat them one by one. Today, we understand that businesses do not prosper under these conditions. These conditions add to cost, waste time, and present a loss of opportunity for that investor in a more favorable environment. And ultimately, they cost or they create a higher risk factor for the investors. So they literally, because of that, investors decide to go somewhere else. And because we take so much time to decide on what needs to be done for them, time kills the deal. Today, through the Economic Development Corporation that we have reorganized and restructured, we have a single point of entry for people who want to invest in our community. There is no more splitting the baby in half, as Chairman Knoll says. They are responsible for all of the economic development in our village. We gave them the autonomy to speak to businesses with one voice of authority, and we allowed them to stay with the project from inception to completion. We funded them adequately, and we built trust with them, and now we talk to each other instead of in the past talking at each other. The EDC is also structured in a way to outlast a divided board or an ineffective village manager. Due to that, we see some great signs coming up. We have made meaningful progress on our two major downtown sites, the Colt Building, and Don Smith is here with us today, and we also made great progress with the Lake and Forest development. Also, the EDC will be presenting us with their selection of the Harlem and South Boulevard developer. In light of this momentum, we were downgraded by Moody's. This downgrade was based on the village's 2012 financial audit reports. The downgrade is due to low fund balances and other obligations. Relative to other communities, we are okay. But okay should not be good enough for us. Before we desire to be the guiding light for other communities, we need to be able to keep our own lights on. Yes, optimism is required to pull us through, but it must be accompanied by a clear vision, a plan, money, yes, money, and the courage to execute. Some of the challenges we have today: our technology is non-existent at Village Hall. Our alleys are in bad shape. Our infrastructure is aging. We have less desirable fund balances. We still have challenges with Madison Street, but I just figured it all out. I'm going to outsource it to Mayor Calderone. Hey, he was giving me tips, so I gotta take him up on that. But we do have challenges with Madison Street, and I think it's gonna be our biggest opportunity. But we need to rethink different about Madison Street, and we need to have a targeted approach on how we're gonna develop that. with North Avenue, we have a challenge with that. We need to complete the streetscape. And that's a plan that we are working with. We're actually working on that with Senator Harman, who's here. Thank you, Senator Harman, for being here. We have a challenge with Roosevelt. As you've heard earlier, Mayor Calderone mentioned that we have a shared project with Roosevelt. Roosevelt ended up with all the businesses, and we ended up with the cul-de-sacs on our side. So we are thinking as a board to figure out a way to find out if TIF would be a good benefit for Roosevelt Street. We're not there yet, but it's a discussion we're having right now. And with Harrison Street, as you know, some of you might know that we have some legal issues with some of the properties in there, and the village is keeping a close eye on that. Going back to improve our grade, we, the village board, either have to cut services and increase taxes, or create an environment to attract new residents, retain current businesses, create jobs. I want to increase our daytime population. We must do that. We must increase our daytime population. Over the next 2 years, we're going to add 750 more units of residential units. I want these people to be able to be close to work, to live here, to bring their families in here. So we have to create those jobs for them. And that's one thing we can be thinking about. Madison Street is a place we can create jobs. So if any of you here, developers or investors, want to create jobs in Madison Street, I'll give you my cell number, okay? So we need to attract new businesses, retain current businesses, and recruit new ones. Along with, that's not enough, along with shifting some of our current resources and truly collaborate with other taxing agencies and our neighboring Forest Park and River Forest. We need to change, and it is always best to change before you have to. You have a clearer mind, you're not panicking, you make better decisions, and you anticipate. It's always best to change before you have to, and it doesn't cost as much. The opportunity is here now. Recent elections have created a favorable environment for collaboration among other taxing bodies. But collaboration, the word itself, means nothing unless we do it, unless you expect your elected officials to actually do it, and unless we show you that we're doing it, it's just a word. I feel that the opportunity is here now to truly collaborate with our taxing agencies. I can't tell you how much I enjoy working with Kathy, with Tony. I also love working with John Phelan, Bob Spatz, and all the other leaders of our taxing agencies. This is the right opportunity for us to collaborate. The opportunity is here now in terms of this positive economic outlook. The opportunity is here to collaborate with our neighbors also, as I said. You might know, about a year ago, John Hedges and I were seeking the office of the president of the Village of Oak Park. We were on opposite ends of the table. Now, we are working side by side for the benefit of our community. Let us all let us all come together and seize this opportunity within our community and with our neighbors. And to the people who want to invest and investing in our community, I call on you to help us maintain the values, the culture, the history that attracted you to our community in the first place. I'm going to leave you with this thought from David Mamet: opportunity may knock, but seldom nags. Thank you very much, and I'm honored to serve you, and I'm humbled to be in front of you. Thank you very much. I love you all. Thank you.
Karen Malarkey, who brought these up, wanted me to say that she was the first Wednesday Journal carrier, newspaper carrier 30 years ago, 35 years ago. So, maybe it was 10 years ago. All right, here's a question for Anan. How can Oak Park be more business friendly? La Majada failed on Harrison Street. Neighbors were complaining about noise, so you had problems with some neighbors in the area. You've got the problems with the Colonimos properties on Harrison Street, where there are 7 properties in foreclosure. So what does a village do?
I'd say that one of the things we have done to be business friendly is to create a customer service department at the village hall. And so if you have any issues with your experience at Village Hall, I think we're probably the only town right now that I know of that has the word customer in a department that they have. Because as Mayor Calderone said earlier, that one needs to understand what it takes to gain, keep, and create new customers. And I think right now that under the leadership of our village manager, Kara Pavelchak. Where are you, Kara? All right, yeah. We have excellent training going throughout the village hall. We have Tammy Grossman leading that department also. And with La Majada, as you know, they've been there for a long time. My understanding, they are the first holders of the liquor license in Oak Park. And I am sorry to see him go. I don't really understand all the legalities that are involved in there, but I am sorry to see him go. And we will do everything we can. If someone wants to come over and take it over, we would help them to get through it.
Anan, you've made a big point of saying, bring on all comers. Kathy, you've got a situation right now with business on Madison that wants to move in, a fair amount of opposition from residents. So why don't you start? Are there times when you have to say, not for us?
Yes. This is on? Yep. Yes, I do believe so. But, you know, we have processes for that, and that's why we have a zoning code, and we have a plan commission, and we have other things in our village is, you know, to make sure we normalize all of that. But yes, you know, for us, if there's something that comes about that would appear to be inappropriate for our community, you know, our hope is that our zoning and our processes and our village board will ultimately catch that.
Anan?
Well, if I don't take him, Mayor Calderon will take him right away. So I think, well, I agree with what Kathy said. I think it's there are certain businesses that we definitely don't want to have in our town.
Ditto. What we don't want, we ship over to Oak Park. No, in all sincerity, there absolutely are.
You had a strip club a few years ago that wanted to open somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, that's a perfect example, Dan. We had a strip club that wanted to open up on Des Plaines Avenue and Industrial Drive. Now, you know, there's probably people in the room on both sides of the issue. But, you know, at the end of the day, we felt that that was not a use that was consistent with at least the vision that we've been carrying out in Forest Park. And so ultimately, you know, you hope that the current zoning codes are in place to help the municipality protect from some of those types of uses. And then, of course, from time to time, you discover some weaknesses, and that's a case where you have to come back and amend your zoning code to further protect yourself. The answer is there is always, for all of our communities, there's going to be some instances where business use wants to come in that is incompatible with our communities, and I think we would all share that.
There are a lot of success stories that you would each share River Forest Town Center, Madison Street. Oak Park is finally filling some critical holes in downtown Oak Park, or hopefully will be soon. Why are the peripheral streets, Roosevelt in both towns, North Avenue, why are they so hard to get your hands around?
The nature of these streets, I mean, North Avenue is very difficult to cross and from one side to the other. In the meantime, the business owners, they pay less taxes on one side of the street than the other, so that challenge is there. The lots on some of these streets are narrow, so they're challenging for, look, we could think of about a lot of reasons on why it's challenging, but I think when we come together as a community and put our minds to it and to try to shift resources to where they benefit us the most, we can't get anything done.
The only comment I would make is I think Skip Saviano wouldn't think he has a North Avenue problem. His businesses are pretty much thriving on one end, and our end is, clearly has its challenges, and that's why we're looking at a tax, a TIF, analyzing it, and seeing where we can improve. But we have the similar challenges. I mean, the lots are smaller, they're not deep, and there's currently people in them too. So. But our goal is to try to revitalize North Avenue, hopefully with the rumor going on with Mariano's on Sears, that would even help us better, so.
At the Sears store. Mm-hmm. Tony, Roosevelt Road?
I think there's several issues that are consistent, both whether it's Roosevelt Road or North Avenue. Number one is the volume of traffic, and it's real hard for some retailers to situate themselves in such a way that they're going to get the proper exposure for all that ridiculous amount of traffic that's driving by. Parking is very, very critical. And one of the things Cathy mentioned, Elmwood Park, one of the things that Skip Saviano is doing up there is creating, through the village purchasing additional properties to create the needed parking to support that type of retail environment.
Cathy, one more question? A little more? Go. Let me ask about beauty supply stores. Oak Park gets a lot of attention over wigs and beauty supplies. Forest Park has put in place an ordinance that limits the size of beauty supply stores as well as the spacing between them. Oak Park has got a zoning issue coming up in June somewhere over near Madison and Austin related to the spacing on beauty supply stores. What's appropriate for a town to do to try to control uses on that micro a level? Oak Park also has the issue with pawn shops, which has been a difficult issue on North Avenue. So, Tony, why don't you start, if you would, and explain why you did what you did and what you see as the upsides of it.
With no disrespect to any folks in the room that may have the need to purchase beauty products, when we look at our particularly, well, we did it for both Madison Street and Roosevelt Road. Keep in mind we're much more compact in terms of our two different business districts. It's pretty compact, and all along, we felt that we want to have a correct blend of retail uses, and for some reason, and there's people out there in the most likely in the real estate market that could answer this much better than I can, but there seems to be a preponderance or a tremendous amount of interest in folks opening these beauty supply stores. And so it's becoming too much, at least for, I know in our case, our community, and that's why we took the necessary action to limit both the size and distance between those types of uses.
We have none.
Outside of shared streetscaping, in multiple instances people are talking about, is there some big opportunity for shared services between these three towns and/or Elmwood Park, and what might that look like? Sure, yeah.
I'm really passionate about this, so I'm going to stand up on this issue here. I think that, look, services are expensive to provide. And the amount of taxes we're imposing on the people that live in our towns is high. And so what do? You have to think creatively about how to cut costs. Between our three towns, we are less than 100,000 people. Yes, it's a lot of people, but it's also not a lot of people. The idea, in my view, is if we find ways to collaborate, whether on sustainability issues, whether on the shooting range issue, that we could all benefit from that, whether on how to, whether we have a fire district together. So look, we had a fire that broke on Clinton a couple of weeks ago. We had 11 communities. They sent 75 fighters to this block. 75 fighters from 11 different communities came to fight that fire. From 11 different communities. To me, that's coming together. I don't see why we, the three towns, or maybe four towns, why we can't find ways, real ways, to collaborate and to cut costs and to shift resources and to ease the burden on our taxpayers. And so if there's any opportunity that I can participate in there and can drive that change, I will do that 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. I would love to do it. Yeah.
Well, I absolutely agree with Anan. I think our very first conversation when we were both running for the campaign of village president, that was probably the very first word that came out of both of our mouths is how can we do something better together and save the taxpayers money? I mean, that's just how I think we're wired and how we think. But to answer the question directly in terms of the business, Dan, I think I kind of mentioned that in my speech, and that we have an opportunity to really increase foot traffic around our communities. And people, believe it or not, and I think I've read it in the OPRF annual report, that you actually attract over 200,000 international tourists that come through OPRF. And River Forest is just trying to get a little bit of that. Come on our way. If I could have a crossing guard over there saying, come on over here, I would. Maybe I'll do that. But my point is that if we can, that's what my idea was, trying to create this, regional business alliance that could really harness those 200,000 plus international tourists that come through our town because they're looking at our beautiful homes, and maybe buy a couple of things at our businesses and like I said, sip a cup of coffee or have a pastry somewhere. Anyway, there is a lot of ways we can collaborate and really drive business, and I think that's what you all are looking for us to do. So,
Tony?
For the last 16 years, I've always enjoyed good collaboration with both OPRF and River Forest. For whatever reason, I can tell you that just within the last couple of years, this whole process has risen to new heights. We are very serious. When I say we, talking about Cathy and Anan and myself, we're very serious, and we have been having significant discussions on a number of different levels. The shooting range, which, by the way, that means a place where our police officers have to go a couple times a year to practice shooting. And right now, River Forest has their own range. OPRF has their own range. We have never had a range. And these things periodically have to be updated for many hundreds of thousands of dollars. And so that's one area that we're actively engaged in right now. And that may be one of those areas that maybe within the next year you're going to hear about a true collaboration. And it looks like it's taken on some legs of its own. I forgot if it was Anan's idea or Cathy's idea. I forgot which. It was not mine. But We have actually approached our community college, and because of that, they said, hey, this is kind of an interesting idea, and maybe we're going to reach out to all of the communities that the Triton College serves. And so this kind of small idea for just our 3 communities looks like it's going to morph into something much larger, but needed, particularly on shared services, where we all ultimately will end up saving money. This is the way it has to go. And Anan hit the nail right on the head. Stuff is costing way too much money today. And so we're also looking at this potential for a fire protection district, but you know, that's a big hurdle we have to overcome. But if that can happen, that's going to reduce operational costs for all 3 of our communities very significantly. But that could be, you know, that could be a couple of years before, you know, we see that materialize.
Very good. Tony?